Alright, what's going on, everybody? We got the Nova back in the garage, and after the performance of the past weekend, there's a couple things I want to go over and change. We got to check out the spark plugs. We had a little issue with it breaking up after looking at the logs. It only broke up in first gear for a little bit. The most simple, obvious thing would be to look at the spark plugs. It's possible. They've been in here a while. I mean, turbo cars, you don't really have to swap them anywhere near as often as nitrous cars, but we haven't swapped these in a while. I'm also going to tighten up the gap on the plug, see if that helps us out. I also want to make a change to the fuel pressure. Right now we're running a base fuel pressure of about 60 psi. What's happening is when we get up into the higher boosts, we're not getting any more pressure like we should. So I'm going to take the base pressure and bring it down to 40 psi. Hopefully that will allow us to get more out of the fuel pump. That's essentially what we're trying to do here. Instead of adding a second pump just yet and doing all that, we can still get more out of the fuel pump by running a lower base. And I know we can do that because the injector duty cycle is under 40% anytime we've made it pass. So it's usually somewhere in the mid to high 30s. Duty cycle is going to go up a little bit, but base fuel pressure is going to go down and allow us to have a wider range. That's the game plan. We got the driver's side plugs out. All things considered, for as long as they've been in here and everything else, they all look really good. The only thing that I would say is these plugs are a TR6 because it's what I had at the time and I never realized it, but we're gonna go to a BR7, so we're gonna go a little bit colder and a little bit tighter on the gap. But so far, driver's side checks out. I mean, they look really good for some used plugs that have had, at this point, these things have to have more than 50 hits on them. I mean, since we put it together, we made more than 50 passes. I know that. I don't know. I wouldn't say we're to 100 yet, but let's hit the other side, see what that looks like. If there's going to be any problem with any plug, it'll be this one right here. I'm not really seeing any problems with these plugs either. They all look pretty great. The only thing is that I know with the heat range and the gap, it's possible we could have been breaking up because we're actually blowing spark out if the gap is too far apart. And sometimes when the plugs get older, you need to tighten them up. We're just gonna go with a whole fresh set, but honestly, I'm gonna hang on to these because like a project like the Regal or something, these will go right in and be fine. So I'm gonna get the new ones gapped up and in there. Fuel pressure set when it's running. We've got it down to 40 now, but like I said, we want to have it set while it's running and see if we can fire it up, get it to fire up on 40, and then we'll fine tune to make sure it's 40 while it's actually running. Alright, we'll give it 4 seconds, and if I've done everything correct, it should fire up. We'll see. There's something else that has to change, and I can't quite remember what it is. I changed the base pressure in the Holly down to 40. That's what we just uploaded in there, and it'll idle, but as soon as you try to give it any gas, it's going lean, it's not happy. So I gotta get up with Derek and figure out what is it that I'm doing wrong here. How can we fix it? Let me get up with him, and then we'll figure out how to make this 40 pounds or 45 pounds of base fuel pressure work, because right now, she ain't working, Jack. I'm not saying this is the issue, but we have fuel pressure safeties on the vehicle, and what's happening is when I'm trying to rev it, I think it's below the threshold of the fuel pressure safety. So let me kick that down and try this again and see if maybe that in its entirety is our issue. There's only one way to find out. got up on the brake a little bit there. I took a log just to make sure. I think we're gonna need a little bit of fine tuning here, where instead of dropping this to be below 35 psi, we want to have it up a little bit higher. Maybe we'll just kick it on at a higher RPM so I can still rev it, you know, clear it out. I think that's all it was. I think it was just the safety, because you could hear it when I was watching the RPM and the fuel pressure at the same time. That's what it was doing. It was hitting that safety. Taking more timing out of it was not the answer. I got to a point where it got to about gate, and then it started losing. And then once it started losing, it dropped RPM, and it just could not recover. Once it picked up RPM again and started trying to recover, that wasn't going to work. All right, so that's not the answer. Apparently, it says it's a very delicate balance between RPM, timing, everything. And I don't know what that balance is. A converter change would help, but we don't have any converters. We'd have to get something done specifically for this. We put nitrous on it to spool it. It's a little wild for this kind of scenario. Or we can give it a boatload more RPM and have to leave on a lot more RPM. We just have to add a lot of launch timing out of it to get it to act the same way. Still were on the brake too long. Still didn't make full boost like we wanted to. It would appear as though, at least from the sound, it sounded way better. It also didn't hit that brick wall where it just hits that brick wall and falls on its face. What we can do now is take the same thing I just did, but do it more and see where that nets us. Because what I ended up doing, I put timing back into it on the boost builder. Like I said, it didn't hit that, like it used to hit a hard wall where it would build gate, then it would take a second. It didn't hit that hard wall, it kept building. So this is my boost builder table, yada yada yada, right? So what I did is, this used to be like 9, this used to be 12. Like I moved everything over, and it seems to be much happier in that until we got to 17. It used to pull 18 degrees total, but it pulled it like back here, back when it was at like 5 or 6. Because where it started to kind of slow up a little bit was in this area where we started adding the timing back in. So I think maybe what I need to do is, maybe we can bring this down to 17, 18, but we can also spread this out, make this 17, 18, 17, 18, and then start bringing it back in. Bro, if I figure this out, dog, we're gonna be making tuning money hand over fist. Derek, you're fired. No, actually, he's been texting me trying to help me out, but I don't know, I just texted him. I was like, so I just did this the opposite way of what I thought it would have worked, and it actually worked way better than it ever has. So maybe that's just it. So now we'll let the converter cool again, the trans cool again. If you guys haven't noticed, I have a fan and I got a temp gun. I've been checking the temperature on the converter itself, because we don't have a trans temp gauge, but wait another 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever, how long it takes with the fan on it and everything, and then we'll try it again. Just like I said, just spread it out even more. See if that helps us out. That one sounded the best. So I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see this, because there's like dashed and dotted lines here, right? This red line is the boost we just made. This red line is the boost we made on the setting before. So as you can see, this is what we just made as far as pulling timing, right? And it was, you know, I stretched it out, so we pulled less timing over a longer period of time, where this one here, where we kind of slammed it down, and then this dash line we made way more boost, right? So in the same point of either one, we made 7 pounds of boost versus 11 pounds of boost. So we got to go back to the other way. We got to go back to the other one and then try to figure out where it's going to be happiest. But it's just the name of the game. I mean, we could spend 6 hours here putting on the brake, and that's the problem, is letting it cool, because it needs, you know, at least 20 minutes with the fan going. So right now it's making 10 pounds of boost in 5 seconds. It's commanding 15, so we're not quite getting there yet. I think that's gonna be about the best I can do for the moment. I mean, it sounds spectacularly better, and it's working spectacularly better. So also, the other thing is I haven't bumped it at all. Sometimes when you bump, when you release that pressure, it'll help kick it up a little bit. So I think we're close enough that if I hold on for, you know, 6 seconds and get to 12.9 and we bump, I think we should be good. It's not perfect, but without a converter change, I don't know that we're gonna get it much better. Now we can go testing, eventually, allegedly. I'm good with it. So we had a slight change of plans. We were gonna go out testing, but decided what would be better off is my buddy Chris was available. He's got these scales. So, are these the wireless ones? All right, so we got the ProForm scales. So we're gonna go ahead and put it up on a scale this thing out, because I don't know, I know what the overall weight is. You guys can guess that below now, but I don't know front, rear, left, right, all that kind of stuff. So if we want to have any shot at trying to do anything at State of the Union at the end of the month, Clifton's race, we're going to need to figure out this scaling situation and see whether we need to lose weight, gain weight, where we can put it, all that. So let's get these things set up. So we have got what could quite possibly be one of the best starting points possible. And I'll put this on the screen because I don't really care, you guys can know. With me in it, it's a little off. Without me in it, it's perfect. But with me in it, 32.25. And then if you guys do the math, 25.5, 24.9. I mean, that makes it 50.4. So, I mean, we are pretty close. When I get out of the car, it's like 50-50 on the nose, which is good news, because that means instead of having to do a tremendous amount of work up front, we don't have to do that much work up front. And little things like 100 pounds in the rear would be a world of difference in this. I'm not sure how much it would sway the percentages. I should have brought some weight with me. I didn't bring no weight. How much you weigh?
160.
Go stand on the rear bumper. Like so. With you on the back, which is 160 pounds. Hold on, let's take a picture of it. We went to 34.09 with 28.2 on the left rear, 26 on the right rear. So we need some weight in the right rear, definitely. But overall, 160 pounds is only going to bring us to, what, 54% in the rear? So we would need 300 pounds or more in the rear to get us to kind of close to where I want to be with 60 in the rear. But now that we have these numbers, I got pictures and everything, we're at a point where it's 50-50. So every pound we take off the front helps the rear. And if we take 100 off of the front and add it to the rear, we've changed the weight bias dramatically without changing the overall weight of the car. Right. This might make a difference. All right, so check this out. Just crazy things we could do with weight, right? Right now, we're at 25.4, 24%, right, on the rear. $25.3, 24%. Let's move some stuff around. What can we move around in this thing? We don't got nothing to move around, do we? I'm 170 pounds, and that puts us at 27.8, 26.4. We need a minimum of 300 pounds in the rear to get to where we want to be, or 100 pounds off the front into the rear, and then we only need 200 pounds in the rear. Now we can take it back home and we can figure out what can we cut up, what can we get out. We want to take off as much of the front as we can. It might be time for no front bumper again. I hate to do it. I need a fiberglass front end, and then we just... Alright guys, so we're back in the house after scaling it. We're in a really good place to start, and today I wanted to take some time to there's a bunch of stuff in the front end here that could go away. Like there's a little wiring, there's just, you know, different brackets, there's these pieces for the windshield wipers. Like there's a lot of stuff that if I put in a bucket may end up 10, 15, 20, 25 pounds, whatever it ends up being, will work really well. First, I want to talk about the eureka moment that I have had. Now, I've gone through this and I did little videos on my phone and everything. I'm going to try to get under the car and show you guys this so you guys can see what's going on. And I think that we're going to make one change to the rear suspension here that is going to be the night and day difference between us getting down the street, no prep, that kind of stuff. It'll even make us faster on the track because it still does it on the track. It's just on the front half of the track, it doesn't care because it still grips. But let me show you guys this. Alright, now we got some light on the situation, and disregard how terribly this is done and everything else. This is something I did years and years and years ago before this thing was ever a race car. We just moved the shocks inside and I just cut this little, you know, pipe in half, made an upper shock mount and called it a day. Now if you notice by what's clean is how much it's moving. So we're never really fully compressing the shock, but what we are doing is stopping the rear travel, because when the rear tries to extend and separate, it only has so much movement in the shock. You guys see the problem, right? If not, I'll keep explaining it as we're going on. But for now, I want you to focus on how just only that little section of the shock is clean. Alright, now we got some jack stands getting ready to take some weight. I want you to take a look at what happens when I lower this thing down. Lowering it down. And honestly, we get pretty far looking at how much travel or movement is in them shocks, right? But that's about it. We get to there, and that's going to be it. See, there's no more weight on there. For conversation's sake, I'm going to grab a tool and we're going to measure just a point of the rear. Alright, so for conversation's sake here, my little triangle, right, fits just under the rear bolt. Right under the rear bolt of the shock. It'll slide right into there. Now, let's pull the bolts out of the rear shock and see how far it goes. Alright, now we got the rear bolts, or the shock bolts out. And we'll go ahead and lower this bad boy down. Look at that. That is where the shock used to be, right? That's full extension on the shock, and we're still another inch from the hole. So I think that what's happening is we're bottoming the shock out too fast because the suspension still wants to travel another inch. And if I cut the top mounts out, put a new mount in, lower the top mount so we can get more travel out of this shock, we'll get the extra inch, and that may be a huge help to our program. Alright, so I've got some old roll cage tubing here. I got some different bends and pieces. Essentially what I'm going to do is right about the point where the shocks used to be mounted up on the frame rail. I'm going to go ahead, measure it out, and then I'll chop cage tubing down. It's a little bit overkill, but it's what we've got laying around, and a little bit of weight in the rear doesn't hurt either. Let me measure this out. We'll start cutting it up and hopefully start fitting it up here soon. After much cutting, welding, grinding. Last night trying to tack it in place and check the range of motion and failing miserably. We finally have it all together. Now I know what's going to happen next. Right now we're at a point where the links on the anti-roll bar need to be lengthened. That's what's going to hold us up next. But we've gotten some more out of the shocks themselves. So I ordered a whole anti-roll bar kit so I could put new links on it, or if I have to redo the whole thing, we've got an entire kit to order. So I'm going to go ahead and lower this down, and now all that's left to do is test it. The next project, which Mallory is getting started on. Babe, what are you doing?
Taking everything off.
Taking everything off?
Everything, all of it.
If it ain't bolted down, well, even if it is bolted down, it's going. Gone. So here's where we kind of hit a crossroads, right? We know by the weight that we're pretty much at 50-50, and every pound we take off of the front, it would be the same as adding a pound to the rear. Now, I would rather take weight off of the front. You know, we could just throw 300 pounds in the rear, leave everything as it is, or we can take weight off the front and it will act like we're putting weight in the rear. So the problem that we have is, although there's some things, like Mallory's working on getting these pieces off, we're going to start cutting away some extra wiring, some old wiring that was there. We're going to take, you know, the windshield wiper pieces that are in there that we're never going to use again. We're going to start taking some of that stuff off. I'm really focusing hard on trying to have a decent performance at the State of the Union race at the end of the month. And where I really don't want to do it, because it's really super ugly, is get rid of this bad boy. I think this right here is a solid still 30, 40, maybe even 50 pounds, even after I've cut all of the stuff out of it. So we might have to, for the sake of knowledge, just take it off and weigh it. And if it's like, oh, it's only 15 pounds, all right, we'll keep it. But if it's like, man, this is a significant amount of weight, we might have to go back to no front bumper days. Which, keep in mind, if you guys are on the hunt, if you guys see it, come across it, whatever, I am looking for a fiberglass front end. Prefer not to get a new, nice, shiny one. Doesn't really do us, you know, doesn't do anything for me personally. I'd rather get like the one that came off an old bracket car that's beat up and old and everything, and the guy wants $200, $300, $400, $500 for. That's a lot more our style. So if you guys see one, let me know about it. A couple people have sent me some. They've just been too far away to really make the deal happen, but we're gonna keep our eyes open and see what we can get. For now, let's start removing weight. We gotta do math here. I'm ready to pull the bumper off, but I'm gonna hold it. So I weigh 171 on the nose. Should be ready. Oh my goodness.
Heavy?
Yeah. Not to mention there's still some other brackets we could take off. I'm gonna guess
45 pounds.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna guess at least 210. 234 pounds. That's 60 pounds.
Yeah.
63 pounds.
It's a whole lot of chicken.
Not including the other brackets.
Pretty big.
How bad do we want to win? Are we willing to look dumb with no front bumper in an attempt to be faster? Because 63 pounds,
yeah,
probably with those other brackets, probably closer to 65 pounds.
That's crazy.
I've taken a plasma cutter and I've cut out a bunch of stuff back here. Like a bunch of stuff. The thing is, if we do this, if we can get 65 pounds and then what, another, if we can find another 35 and small stuff, which is going to be harder to do, but 100 pounds off the front means we only have to add 200 pounds to the rear. That's big. That's huge. Yeah, we definitely, this thing can't go back on. There's no, like as soon as I picked it up, I was like, I remember it being heavy, but I don't remember it being that heavy. Damn. Because I was kind of holding it off to the side.
Yeah.
233.2. Yeah, so anyway we cut it, I was 170 pounds before I picked up this bumper. So, like I was showing Mallory, showed him that bracket, babe. So this piece here, that's what holds the bumper on when it goes into the frame rail. See, you can see like this whole thing that sticks off to the side. I think those got to be worth another at least 2.5 pounds a piece. And if we've got the front bumper off, there's no point in those things being on still. So let's try to get those off. Breaking it?
Oh, there's one way back in there.
Show off your muscles. Come on, let's see it. Oh yeah, okay. Smarter than me. Muscles. Muscles.
Have them all day.
All the muscles. Hey kids, come look how strong mommy is. They don't care.
No, they don't.
Pierre will come look, but
Thanks, Pierre. I appreciate you, bud.
Pierre's not even back there.
Well, somebody has to be interested.
I'm interested.
Thanks,
You're
babe.
doing a great job.
Thank you.
I'm gonna cut some wiring. So we can cut all of this. Is like probably weighs nothing, but it's also not really doing much of anything either. So yeah, I'm gonna cut that out because the cover's gonna go back on over it anyway. I saved 1.76 pounds. But you see, that'll go right back there, and it'll be like we never did. Alright, we got a pile of stuffs. Some stuff I wasn't planning on taking off, but we did anyway because at this point, what does it matter anymore? But now we can get to the final weight. We didn't spend a ton of time doing this. I'm sure there's still a lot more, but we got a lot of stuff off and cleaned up and everything else. 31.6. So plus the 64, we're at 95 pounds. So we just about hit my 100-pound goal. Not bad.
Not bad at all.
No. And I think, I don't know, the front fenders, like if we did fiberglass front end, the front fenders, I don't know, they're gonna be that much. Maybe 10 pounds a piece, something like that. But there was talk about maybe going to like a Honda radiator, which is much smaller and much less water. Every gallon of water weighs 7 pounds. So if we can drop like 2 gallons of water out of the cooling system and the smaller radiator, there's stuff we could do. But for now, I think just getting the 100 pounds out of the front is going to be good work. Now we got to test it all, see how it all works. Should we go testing tonight? Well, if we do, the problem with night is my headlights aren't really working right. They're intermittent because they're grounded by the factory. I need to get like, the funny part, it'd probably save weight too if I got some like cheap eBay just circle plastic headlights that would go in there, and they're just powered 12-volt power and ground instead of trying to be ground by the bracketry and all that. We'd probably lose a bunch of that stuff and lose some weight there. Let me figure out testing, but 96 pounds on the day, and it all came from in front of the dash forward.
And honestly, it looks a little bit cleaner now.
It does look, yeah, go ahead and show them, because I don't know that they'll be able to tell, but like there was a bunch of wiring over here that got removed. There was stuff on the firewall. There's little stuff here and there. All these little like clips. Actually, I should have taken that one out and re-zip tied it. But there was some old brake lines because I run new brake lines. I cut some of that off. Obviously, you can see the front grille and all that. Kind of sucks because it's kind of a little bit ugly, but
A little.
we can put those plastic pieces that were back in there. But at this point, like they're just kind of hanging on by a couple bolts and nothing, like, so it almost made no sense to leave them there. One step at a time. Let's see how these changes work, and then we'll go from there. If I can track down a fiberglass front end, we'll worry about that. At that point, we'll probably do something with the core support too, like swap the core support out for something or build our own. Or it's not really doing much besides holding the fenders up and holding the radiator in place, but we can build something to hold the radiator in place that weighs a lot less. And same thing with the fenders. So
How much does that glass weigh?
it's probably 20-30 pounds. The problem is I hate doing it on windshields, like doing the plastic and like sand. Like unless we can get like an optic armor one, a really nice one, those are like $400 or $500. Yeah, we still got some ways to go, but
Little by little. We'll get there.
little by little. What are the chances that we're pulling up to the spot and a cop pulls somebody over right there? Like right
at the end of the road.
Right where we would turn around to make our hit. So yeah, so now we're in reverse. And yeah, I don't know what to do here. Put our happy ass right back on that trailer. You definitely did not see us just rolling down the street with a 40-inch light bar blinding the shit out of you. Yeah, no, definitely. We definitely were not about to turn around and make a hit 20 feet from where you're sitting. I don't think he's gonna.
He just saw a car pull down the road
and then reverse. Like. Theory is great, but theory without practice is useless. I wish I could tell you, for whatever reason, the draggy, to my understanding here, yeah, didn't work. So I don't know quite what happened there. For some reason, the draggy recorded, said the 60 foot was 9.85 seconds, which I know that wasn't correct. I still think we've got some improvement to make. I think it's the anti-roll bar. I feel like it's up in the rear, like the anti-roll bar is just extended too far and it's kind of going like this. So it made the gear change and it did it a little bit. And I was like, all right, well, let's just see where this goes. And then it got a little too far and I had to let out. Let me take a look at the log and see kind of how far we got into this pass before I had to abort it. But it looked like it left the line good. It felt like it 60'd good. I mean, I wish I had the draggy, but
right.
It from you know, the bottom of the butt there, she felt pretty all right. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, it flashed the converter well. It got up well. Made about 21 pounds on the gear change, and then dropped RPM like it should, and it was just still wiggling a little too much. Like, I hate to not make another pass because we're here, but I think the issue is still in the ass end. I don't know. Let me look at the video. Let me look at the cell phone. Hey, this one right here is from Ryan Milliken. Look at that. Got the air compressor in the back. I can fill my own tires. I'm not going to have no 47-foot trailer. All right, so what we're going to do is it was swaying a little bit. So we're going to see what going up in some air pressure can do. A little bit more power up front. Not as much power right before the gear change where it got wild last time. So we're gonna see what that'll do for us. I just talked to a buddy. We discussed the plan for fixing the anti-roll bar. So we got that pretty well figured out. I don't know if that is the issue. If it is not, it could just be air pressure. So let's play with air pressure. We'll make one more and then we'll call it good, because it left well, it looked well. It's funny because in the video, and that's the funny part, is it looked slow, and usually when it looks slow, it's fast, and it felt good. So let's give it a little bit more off the party line, see what happens.
What's up?
So how'd it look?
It looked pretty stout up, like right off the line.
Would you believe that it was our fastest 60 foot on the street ever?
Really?
Like faster than what we went at Capitol the other night? Yeah!
Damn.
Oh, we're getting it figured out. But it was good until it wasn't, and I don't know why it wasn't, but I pedaled it, got back in it, whatever. Oh, man. It feels good, like the work is paying off, because obviously what I thought about rear suspension changes would be it would help us 60, And we just went the fastest 60 we've ever gone, leaving on less boost than we've ever left with on this street. I want to say this thing, we only left at like 11 pounds of boost, and this thing just went and lit off the fastest 60 ever. Oh, man. Now, the whole pass was not great, obviously, because, you know, I had to pedal it. Because I want to say it was probably no more than 11 pounds, maybe 12 pounds. When I let go of the trans brake, it was 11.6, and then it shot up to 15. It got into 24, so I got greedy. I turned it up a little too fast, a little too hot, but dog, that was the fastest 60 foot on the street we've ever had. It's wild because it's been like work. And don't get me wrong, it's not the best 60 foot in the world, but like,
you're heading the right direction.
We're heading the right direction, and the changes that we're making are working. How far out did I get before it got wild? 1.8 seconds is when I had to pedal. At the point of pedaling, it was at 22 pounds. So, and we were already past the 60 foot.
Right.
But it wasn't like swaying or nothing. So tire pressure helped. Rear suspension changes helped. Badass turbo helped. Dropping the base fuel pressure helped. Figuring out building the boost on the brake helped. Like, oh man. We were out of fuel when I left the house, and I think there was enough in here for a couple passes, but plus it's getting pretty late. I can't wait to see that video, because I know that, because just by the funny part is, the first one, it felt good too, and it looked slow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if this one looks slow, then I'll know that we did it back to back. Oh, figuring it out. I think we're going to call it a night for tonight. We're going to get this thing loaded up, but it's a great sigh of relief. There's some more things I want to do. We've got some double adjustable shocks on the way for the rear. So hopefully when those come in, we can fine tune this a little bit more, because it looks like for the most part what was happening, the rear was separating and then bouncing back up and separating and bouncing back up. And it appears as though we've cut a lot of that out with the changes that I've made. Just watching that video of it leaving, it looked slow like the first one did, so I'm willing to bet the first one was a pretty quick 60 foot too. Got a little greedy, so it is what it is. But we're working and we're making progress and we're getting faster. So I'm really looking forward to what we got coming up. Friday there's a no prep at Summer Duck. I'm not sure that we're going to hit there, just because it's a little different than what we need to be testing for with State of the Union. Seeing that we've just had the fastest 60 foot we've ever had out here, I think we can replicate it out there, and we can probably learn some more about power management out there as well, and what makes this thing happy. Because right now it's significantly less boost. Like, I've left on this road on 14 pounds of boost with the old turbo. This one we left at 11.8. The pass before that, I'd have to look at the log, but I don't think it was much. It wasn't higher, I can tell you that. So we're leaving with less boost and we're getting down the road quicker. Let's go, baby. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you stay tuned. Next time we're gonna keep thrashing on this thing. We've got a bunch of parts in for the Regal. There's still a lot going on with that, and I'm just beside myself. I'm really super happy. Mallory's pumped up. I sent her the videos, the draggies. She's pumped up. Brandon's pumped up. You can't tell, but he's back there pumped up. And we're just going to keep rocking and rolling. I think, now it just I want to see, can we lose even a little more weight in the front? Can we get the rear weight kind of where it needs to be? There's no weight in the back. I was going to put weight in the back, and I was like, let's see how much this changes. So, fastest 60 foot on the street, no weight in the back. We're moving the right direction. Thank you, guys. Let's keep moving.